The Washington Commanders head to the West Coast to take on the Seattle Seahawks, and we bring on former Seattle Seahawks legendary middle linebacker Lofa Tatupu to help us break down this game. Let's go. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District's game preview. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner here on the Believe Network. Washington entering this game as absolute dogs, Stoner. Just absolute dogs. Current line set nearly at a touchdown. And if you believe Washington's going to win, which, by the way, 70% of us on Ref the District's poll, over 1,600 votes so far, think Washington has a chance. Well, maybe you got to head over to Bet Online or open up the mobile app so you can do it right from your phone. Use the code BELIEVE so you can get a welcome bonus as well. And maybe put your money where your mouth is there. That's Bet Online. You can bet on the NFL, UFC, college football, basketball has started as Iowa. Caitlin, man, she's doing some big numbers. You got all that right at your fingertips with Bet Online. Just make sure you use the code BELIEVE for your welcome package. Stoner.
Yes, sir.
Washington coming into this game, and I think that people are starting to get really, really excited about Sam Howell and Washington turning the corner, as the conversation has kind of, 2 weeks ago, they had a bad loss. They go into the Eagles. They end up losing against the Eagles, but all of a sudden we beat the Patriots. And I feel like a lot of people are already kind of riding high now. They see that there's this open window here. This is November where Ron Rivera puts it all together.
Yeah.
How can they continue that being as big of a dog as they are to the Seahawks?
I mean, it's crazy to think of how we're feeling at this game before, or compare it to how we were feeling before the Patriots game when we were not as high, or a few weeks before that. It is pretty crazy how, just as fans in general, we get so up when our team wins and think we can do some damage. And then when we lose, we think that we'll never win another game, which both could be true. But man, we go through these emotions so much. But I mean, Seattle's coming off a terrible loss. Washington's coming off a win. And somehow we're still 6-point dogs going out to Seattle. It's a little bit disrespectful, in my opinion. But look, this game, Nathan, is not only the biggest game of the year. This is the biggest game for right now of Ron Rivera's tenure here in Washington. This game right here could decide his future here in Washington. Now, I think almost no matter what, he's going to be gone. But just imagine, excuse me, if he wins this game, he wins next game, which is the Giants. Very feasible that they win that game. That's 3 in a row. That's 4 out of 5.
It's above 500.
You're above 500. You're in the playoff talk. You're possibly in that 7th seed already. It could change the entire narrative of the whole season. So that's how big this game is going up against the Seahawks.
It really is a big game, because this actually gives them a win here gives them not only a 500 record and in the driver's seat, towards that 7th seed, but it gives them a win over Seattle and Atlanta, 2 of their competitors for that final seed in the NFC. But to do that, they're going to have to beat the Seattle Seahawks, who are one of the top, rushing teams. So they're going to have to keep Sam Howell off of his back, which has been problematic early in the season, but he's only got 4 sacks over the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And then likewise, we just shipped away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. So, KJ Henry had his first sack wiped out by a horrible penalty, Stoner. What are we going to do about that?
Yeah, it's obviously the game always comes down to, again, those guys in the trenches. You got to stop the run. You got to be able to run the ball. You want to get to their quarterback. You want to stop them from getting to our quarterback. They're very good at getting to the quarterback. So we've got to keep that same game plan that we've had the last 2 weeks. As you said, 4 sacks in the last 2 games. Keep that up. You're going to win a lot more games. You're going to have a lot more success on offense. But we've got to get to their quarterback. What is Gino's his percentages, his numbers? When he gets out of the pocket, he's a dangerous dude.
He's good.
Got to keep him in the pocket, and you got to force him to make some throws that he doesn't want to make, while he's stuck in that pocket, and you got to hit him and you got to make him uncomfortable. And it just, that's the name of this particular game here. We got to get to their quarterback, and we've got to keep them away from our quarterback.
Well, we'll have to ask our guest about roughing the passer penalties for sure, as he has some experience with that himself. Let's welcome to Ref the District, Lofa Tatupu from Take 12, the Believe podcast for the Seattle Seahawks. Hey, Lofa, thanks for joining us here on Ref the District. Now, you missed the Pete Carroll, seasons in Seattle, but you have some experience with him in your USC days. Is it surprising to still see him coaching out there, smacking his gum on the sidelines?
No, not at all. And in fact, I made my last season in Seattle was Pete's first one here.
Okay.
So we had the dubious honor of being the first losing team to win a division and go to a playoff game. And we won. And we won.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, but no, it's not surprising. It's the guy I've said he's the Benjamin Button of coaching. He just keeps getting younger.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that he's still there. He's still been successful. And some things we look at here in Washington, it happens like with the locker room. We're always concerned about with a coach that's on his fourth year, hasn't really won a whole lot. Maybe he's losing the locker room, and we haven't seen any signs of that. But it's amazing that Pete has gone all these years, and obviously the players still just love him and respect him, and he gets the most out of them. And I don't even, how old is he? Like 70? 72. What's it like playing for a guy like that who's just you always respect him. You never lose that locker room when he's around.
Yeah, no, it's really credit to, him and John and the culture they built, and he's a big kid. He really is. Like what you see is who he is. So I think just being true to himself. He was the same way when I was down in LA with the Trojans. And so I think it's refreshing to see that it wasn't just an act. This is really who he is. And that's why he has success, because you got to be yourself, because players in that locker room, they can see through bullshit. And so I think that's the biggest key. And like I said, he's a big kid. So as more kids come in, it's just, part of the family.
So you're mentioning that he's true to himself, and sometimes to the detriment of the team a little bit with his propensity to run the ball. On Washington side, we have Eric Bieniemy, who's true to himself, and he's a pass the ball kind of guy, which is strange given his running back history. What makes a coach, either Pete Carroll or Eric Bieniemy in our case, kind of just get so into that we're going to pass or we're going to run the ball?
Yeah, and I know we'd like to run the ball a lot more with the two running backs we have in Walker and Charbonnet. So I expect to see them get back to that. But we've had a tough slate the last 2 weeks with the number 1 and number 2 defenses in Baltimore and Cleveland. So I think they've had great success in doing what they do, and so that's why they stick with it. And because I know it's got to be new for a lot of Commander fans, like, oh, we're just going to air it out every single down, especially when you got 2 great running backs, with Gibson and Robinson. So, but I think he's utilizing their skill set too. They can catch out of the backfield. They're great running backs. But the main point is they've had success, for a number of years doing what they do best, and so I think with the personnel they bring in and everything, that's why they stick with what they know.
Hey, Lofa, the topic du jour in the NFL, at least around here especially, is this whole roughing the passer issue and especially we had it last week where it was just a crazy one. As a linebacker yourself, what is your kind of idea of how the NFL is handling the roughing the passer rule nowadays?
It's total bullshit.
Love it.
Sorry to be honest and frank.
Hey, it's great.
But I understand. Yeah, we don't want penalties. I mean, we don't want injuries. Like they're vulnerable because they're not looking. They're looking eyes downfield, and you got a 300-pounder come hit you. That's not fun for anybody. But this is why they get paid the big bucks. So, and they're the ones that get all the commercials. They got all the perks, man. So, like, can we just tee off on them once? But I think it's really hard. I saw one. We had one. I think it was either last week or against the Bengals where our D-line he had a beeline right at the quarterback, and he hit him, underneath in the designated area, pretty much the chest. But, it was like a step too late. But when you're running full speed, I'm going as hard as I can to get there in time. And you can't take that element and make it guesswork now in the D lineman's head, because he's still got a 300-pounder hanging on to him, holding him. And now we're exposed to injuries. So it's just, I'd like to see it be reviewable, as annoying as that is to fans. I understand, because it'll slow the game down. But this is costing people games. And this is giving first down, 15 yards and a first down in crucial moments. So, I'd like to see it reviewable, because it's bullshit, fellas.
Yeah, and it's costing them money too, right? I mean, when you get the fines
fine afterwards, yeah.
They will fine us for anything. A uniform, not up to the dress.
Wearing the right socks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks have been getting after the quarterback pretty well this season, and Sam Howell early on had been struggling with getting taken down, although over the past 2 games, he's only taken down 1 in the 3 times, so 2 times per game. What is Seattle going to do to fluster the young quarterback and put him on his backside the way that they have done all season?
Well, I think we're going to have to get after it with just our front 4. I don't think you can overcommit and blitz too much with how many receiving threats you guys have. That's a stacked room. And we have a great secondary. It's probably one of our strengths, along with, getting after the quarterback. We lost Chena Nwosu. Some guys had to step up because, he was our sack leader last year and one of our leaders on the team. But this kid, Boye Mafe, he's got 6 consecutive games with a sack. Oof. And the crazy part is he could have had multiple sacks in the last 3 games. One got brought back by a bullshit penalty, and then another one, he's getting the holding calls. So while it doesn't show up on the stat sheet, it's meaningful in putting other teams behind the sticks. Darrell Taylor is a monster. The young kid, Derek Hall, is going to be special. And then we just added, Leonard Williams at the trade deadline. So that's a big key. I expect to see him, get after it too. But those guys have to provide the pass rush. If we overcommit or overpressure, there's just too many threats and too much space for those, McLaurin. Is Samuels back?
Curtis Samuel should be back. He's been practicing. Yeah,
of course. Everybody gets healthy to see us. And then Dotson, I can't believe he doesn't see more targets. I hope he doesn't see many targets this week. But every time I look up when he does get 8 to 10, targets, it's 100 yards and a touchdown. And so, and then Logan Thomas in the middle. It's impressive what you guys got over there.
Well, I'm with your co-host Brett on wanting Dotson to get a lot more target share, as I also have him on my fantasy team. So it'd be nice to get rewarded a little bit.
Oh man, yeah, he's got an internal struggle right now about should he start him, and he's like, because I know if I don't start him, he's going to go off. But if I do and he goes off, then I'm just conflicted. So I was like, hey, good luck, buddy.
Kind of piggybacking off of the sacks talk. And I like your perspective, being a defensive guy, being a linebacker. What sort of psychological advantages that knowing at least ahead of time, looking at film and all that, hey, we can get to this quarterback and we can cause a problem for the opposing team's offense. What kind of psychological advantages that going into a game?
Yeah, I know for me, I would base it all off of, can they protect him, and does he read hot? That's where I got a lot of my interceptions, is knowing that, okay, if he sees the blitz and they're going to pick it up, but he's still going to get pressured, I can jump, be stickier in the route. And I think I don't know if many guys think like that these days. It feels like they're all allowed to just sit back, read and react. But I would know where the hot is. I would sneak over, maybe fake the blitz, and then get right to the number 3 receiver based on his own pressure. And I think it does. It can get, it's a sizable advantage when you're not staying off, and that if your 4-man rush is getting there, it's a huge advantage.
Well, while we're talking about the linebacking aspect of it, from your heyday to now, it seems like linebackers have kind of have been devalued a little bit. Maybe that's a little bit Washington bias, as our 2 defensive coaches who are linebackers only trot out 2 linebackers a lot of the time. What do you think about the kind of switch there with the defense and linebackers not necessarily being the thumpers that they were in past, and now more of a coverage guy?
Yeah, no, the game's definitely shifted. I mean, we're seeing 3 and 4 wide receiver sets as as the base. That's their package, what they're going to roll out there. So you have to give yourself a chance to match up with nickel or dime. Maybe, and I've seen a lot of teams, they got like the hybrid linebacker or safety. We kind of use Jamal Adams in that way, where if they're going to put out 4 wide receivers, Bobby will stay out there with Jamal, and then we'll have 3 safeties with Julian Love and then Diggs over there. So now he's playing that role, kind of like Deion Grant did it for us back in the day. He also did it with the Giants. And so you have to be able to adjust with the times, and that's really where the game's gone. That's why I would just get big and just run. Like I would see what they're made of, kind of like what Baltimore kind of did to us. And also with the run pass option, you have to have faster guys, I'm not sure. I don't even know if I could play today's game.
And Lofa, you brought up Baltimore, and Baltimore, they're a heck of a team, but I mean, 37-3 last week over Seattle. What I like the psychological game. You can probably tell here, but what does that do to a team the next week? Should Washington be aware of Seattle's kind of their mental state of that's not who we are. We're pissed off, and we need to show the NFL, the rest of the world, that that's not who we are.
That you hit it on the head. I mean, no one's happy coming out of there. Not even the kicker that made the field goal. It's. I guarantee you, it was a rough week of practice. Just kind of a reality check. Like, hey, it's not that we're not that good. Our roster is very talented. Baltimore, I got to give credit to them. Because even when I went back and watched the game, like there was nowhere to go with the ball. We couldn't run the ball. It was just suffocating defense. They made plays every time they had to, kind of like we were talking about. Their 4-man pressure got there. 3 of their 4 sacks were 4-man rush. Like they didn't send anybody else extra. So now you could jump the routes if he doesn't have time, and Gino didn't. And there was when they panned out and they showed the end zone copy. Everybody there wasn't a single person open, not DK, Lockett, anybody. And then on the other side, defensively, I know those guys are pissed off. Luckily, we held them to like 3 field goals, or else it could have been in the 50s. That's really like that's, and so an ugly loss. Going to chalk it up as an anomaly. Baltimore just played out of their minds. They are a team that plays up to their competition and down to their competition. Just the week before, they almost got beat by Arizona. It was a lot closer than it looked. And then I think the Colts strolled in there and beat them, which is very rare to have a home loss for them. So we'll get back, on track this week. Sorry to tell you that, guys, but the boys are going to be pissed off.
Well, one of those that should be pissed off is Gino Smith, because despite getting a big contract after a big year last year, he's kind of struggled this year. Now, some of that is, as you mentioned, playing those AFC North teams, all very good defenses. Where is Gino's mindset this season? Because he has some poor numbers, only 9 touchdown passes so far, 7 interceptions. The yardage is down. He's just not seeming to have that season he had last year. And that's being looked at right now as the anomaly. Yeah.
I mean, Gino carried us last year, and I'm not worried about his mindset. That dude, he's a 10-year vet, and, he fought for every chance he got. And then, he made, great use of last year's opportunity. And he did. He got the big contract. It's, Gino hasn't changed. We are not really doing a great job of helping him. Cleveland, we were averaging 8 and 10 yards with both of our running backs. We ran it like 11 times. It's, you got to do something to help him out. And so there's a couple throws that were not great, not ideal. The Bengals, he had 1 interception in the red zone. Really, red zone's been our struggling point. And I think we just get a little too pass happy down there. Like, you got 2 great running backs. You've got a good offensive line. Just, I'm waiting to see. Well, Cleveland did it to us. First team I've seen all year line up in 23 personnel, 2 backs, 3 tight ends. And Kareem Hunt walked into the end zone. He didn't even get touched. And so it's like, hey, where is that? Everybody's going shotgun and handing the ball off 5 yards to get 1 yard. I don't get it. Yeah. So I'm old now. I'm just old, and I'm, old man yelling at the clouds. But
you're preaching to the choir here. Stoner is very much the same kind of mindset. We saw a wrinkle in Eric Bieniemy's offense pretty much for the first time this season. It was the I formation.
What?
Yeah, fullback.
What? Fullback and everything, Lofa. We were like, what is this? What is this? Yeah, it was a crazy day.
But with Gino, he's going to be fine again. I don't think anybody's been talking about it, but he faced the number 1 and the number 2 defense in back-to-back weeks, and the week before a top 10 defense in the Bengals. So, the numbers are there other than touchdowns, and unfortunately, the numbers are there for interceptions too. So he just has to protect the ball and know that we do have the defense to give him more opportunities, and on defense, we have to get more turnovers.
My last question for you, Lofa. Can you believe the money these guys make nowadays? I mean, look, Lofa, I looked it up. You did all right. You did just fine when you were playing. But some of the money these guys are making, especially the quarterbacks, obviously, you kind of wish you were born maybe 10 years later and played in this era with the money that's flowing now.
No, because of my lack of speed, I don't know if I'd be playing. I don't know if I would have made it to the NFL. Yeah. Hopefully, I would have got that NIL money.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. Get that NIL money.
But yeah, I'm good for them. I'm happy, and that's just the way the times are. I'm sure, years before the veterans, when I got paid, they were saying the same. It's just the way it is. I'm just glad they found a way to restructure the rookie pool. And it's just because that seemed a little absurd. Like when we drafted, or when the year after Walter Jones got his contract, and another tackle would get, twice what Walter just got after going to his like 5th or 6th straight Pro Bowl and on his way to a gold jacket. That's where I was like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, when you're paying Sam Bradford $70 million out the gate, that seems like there might be something wrong with that. I can say that as an OU guy. So, but Lofa, you teased it a little bit earlier there, so we kind of know where you're leaning here. But how's this game going to go for Washington and Seattle?
Honestly, I feel like both defenses, they have their work cut out for them. I mentioned that I don't believe this is something where we can just bring pressure like we've done. Clint Hurt's done a great job knowing when to bring pressure and when to just sit back and play coverage. You have too many weapons, and then even the check down can go for a first down with either of those running backs. So we must stop the run in order to, make sure we're good, because that's the biggest philosophy of Pete is no running and no explosive plays, no big passes. For our offense, we have to get the run game going. And I think it helps that, you guys unloaded Young and Sweat just in time. Thank you. Yeah. But you still got Payne and Allen on the inside. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know how, but we have to get a run game going, because otherwise everything, we just struggle. And we're not a team that can play from behind. We have to keep it close or get out in front and then play great defense. Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet, I'd anticipate maybe some outside zone just to stay away from the big guys in the middle, and just, test the edges. And then you guys, Sam Howell's been playing great. You guys got to be pleased with what you got there. And I just go back to that primetime game against the Bears. I watched that whole thing, and I was like, man, he was fighting to get out of pressures and running away from guys, and just it was a gutsy performance. And I know that's only galvanized that team as you lose 2 leaders in Sweat and Young, but you still got McLaurin, Dotson, Samuels, Pringle, Brown.
Yeah, a lot of speed for Washington. Not to say, I mean, you guys got DK and Lockett and Smith and
Jigba.
Yeah, and so I mean, you guys got a good wide receiver room as well.
Watch out for one that's not so speedy. He ran a 4.940. Jake Bobo, undrafted rookie. He's 6'5". He's got a couple touchdowns on the year. He has a way of running routes and setting up and finding guys blind spots. So they think he's there, and the next thing he jukes and he pulls away and he gets separation. I'd expect us to see, use him a little more.
All right. We'll keep an eye out for Bobo there. It's hard to lose a 6'5" guy on the field, but I guess it does happen more often than not. Washington has let up many of those explosive plays as well. Yeah. So that will be something we'll be watching on our side. Lofa, you got a score prediction for this one?
I think it's going to be a high scoring affair. Like I said, you guys present a lot of problems on offense. So I expect our boys to come out and play hard, but I got us Seahawks 31, and I think Commanders I said 27.
Wow, yeah. That's an over. I'm betting the over. That is definitely an over.
It's an over.
That's
We'll,
an over.
we'll see how it goes. Of course, people can watch us live stream play-by-play and commentary right here on Ref the District. You can catch Lofa on the Take 12 podcast. If you want to hear things all about the Seattle Seahawks, they had Anthony Armstrong on for their preview. So, Lofa, we appreciate you jumping on here on Ref the District. We're presented by Bet Online. And until next time,
Hey, Lofa's my brother in arms for Run the Damn Ball.
be a fan.